All right, so again, welcome. A few notes to get us started. First of all, please note that this event is in meeting format, and we do that so that we can share this program with the Knox community and those who could not join us for this live event. If you would like to turn your video off because you don't feel comfortable being recorded, that is completely okay. You can certainly do so in your lower left-hand corner where it says stop video. During the session, I do ask that you remain muted to minimize the background noise while speakers are talking. However, when you have a question, you can either unmute yourself, which is again located in the lower left-hand corner, or you can utilize the chat feature or raise your hand to ask a question. If you happen to experience any issues or technical difficulties, please don't hesitate to submit a question directly to either myself or my colleague, Eric Johnson, who is helping us here today, and we'd be more than happy to assist. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with some introductions.
Do I say continue? It says leaving meeting or continue. Do I touch anything?
You're perfectly good, Jorge. So today we are joined by our two moderators for the event, Amy Beuschlein and Norm Hillner. To kick things off, when Amy came to Knox in the fall of 1985, there were no women's soccer team, but she made it her mission to start one. She worked closely with Jorge Prats, Harley Nosher, and a classmate, Tanya Laubach, to lay the groundwork for the team to begin play in the fall of 1987. She worked with Jorge to develop team practices, philosophies, and schedules. The team achieved varsity status in 1987 and joined the Midwest Conference the following year. Amy earned all Midwest Conference honorable mention honors for women's soccer in her senior season. Additionally, Amy is a 2018 inductee into the Knox Lombard Athletic Hall of Fame. Welcome, Amy. Feel free to say a few words.
Thanks, crew. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for getting on the call, and I'm really happy to get a chance to participate and hear some amazing stories from Jorge today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy, and thanks again for joining us. Our second moderator for today's event, Norm Hillner. Norm graduated from Knox College in 1979, where he made his mark with speed and aggression as both a soccer and baseball player. He earned an astounding 8 varsity letters in those 2 sports during his athletic career at Knox. Norm was named to the all-conference soccer team 4 times and left Knox as the all-time leading scorer. Norm is a 1998 inductee into the Knox Lombard Athletic Hall of Fame. Norm, good afternoon. Welcome. Feel free to say a few words.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm honored to be here and this chance to honor Jorge. It's really a pleasure for me, and thanks again for everybody to come.
And our keynote speaker today, Jorge Prats. As many of you know, Jorge devoted his time outside of the classroom to soccer, and in the mid-1960s started the men's soccer club. When soccer became a varsity sport in 1970, Jorge was the first coach and led the team to the first of 2 Midwest Conference championships in 1973. Jorge started the women's soccer club in the 1980s and was instrumental in seeing it become a varsity sport soon thereafter. If not for Jorge's guidance, generations of Knox students would have missed the opportunity to participate in soccer at Knox College. With my great pleasure, please welcome Professor Emeritus of Modern Language and our former men's and women's soccer coach, Jorge Prats. Jorge, feel free to jump in and say a few introductory words.
Well, I think this is wonderful. I think I love to be here. This is the first time that I'm using this system. But, when I think of the women playing soccer, they must all be around 50 years old or more. And when I think about the men, they must be around 60. So I'm talking to people that I saw many, many years ago. And of course, I enjoyed tremendously everything that I've done, starting soccer for men and for women. Of course, for women, it was a little difficult because they come to my office and they said to me, how come you didn't do anything for the women? And of course, we had Amy and Lara, that came and talked to me. And from that point on, everything went on until Harley Nosher promised me that they were going to be varsity in the next following 2 years. So welcome to everybody, and I'll be happy to talk and answer the questions that I may remember if you ask me. Thank you.
Awesome. And prior to opening up this event for questions, I do want to recognize that we are joined by arguably one of the greatest supporters and champions of soccer at Knox, our beloved president, Teresa Amat. And I want to say welcome, Teresa. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to say a few words.
Thank you. I am wearing my women's soccer hold the rope t-shirt given to me. Thank you, Annie. I just want to say, you know how emotional I get, and here I go again. As I think back on my 10 years at Knox, my memories of this decade, I have to tell you that some of the best memories are Knox soccer. I can remember some exhilarating wins, amazing, amazing wins, some heartbreaking losses. I remember the women who went into the NCAA first round. They were the first to go, and then later the men came. So I thought women leading the way, I like that. That was really a nice moment. So we finally, Amy, the men may have started first, but we've kind of evened up the score later on. So I have such great memories of Knox soccer, but I also have great memories of Jorge because they are one and the same. It is impossible to think about Knox soccer without thinking about Jorge Prats. I remember, Jorge, you sitting there in your signature chair, a chair brought for you, which looked like one of those ratty old recliners that, you know, are sort of half duct tape and half upholstery. But there you were, and you would watch the game. I remember in the hot days, you would be sitting in your air-conditioned car, watching the game as well. That was kind of an upgrade from your recliner there. I have such a very vivid memory when we dedicated Prats Field. We finally got a turf field, which of course did mean that we gave up a kind of home field advantage, which was that when we had the dirt field, we knew where the dips were and where the rises were, and we knew where the ball would roll and where it wouldn't. So that was not so good for our team. We had to learn how to play on an actual level playing field, but we did to great effect. But I remember that dedication, Jorge, and I remember you walking to the center of the field and reflecting on what you had built.
Yeah.
I remember saying that when Jorge Prats came to Knox, he brought with him two radical and remarkable ideas. And one was that American students should go abroad and they should learn from people in different countries, and they should be in that experience, that deep study abroad experience. And so the Barcelona program was born out of Jorge's vision and was such an extraordinary program from us. And of course it was Barcelona because next to Knox and soccer, he loves Barcelona. And so this was a wonderful, wonderful thing that he brought to Knox. But the other wonderful thing he brought to Knox was soccer, which naturally, my mother is Brazilian. I was born in Bolivia. I lived overseas until I was about 14 years old. In all of those countries, football was soccer. So I was very surprised when I came to the United States and I discovered that there was this thing called football that looked nothing at all like what I knew to be football. But Jorge brought both of those to Knox, and we were forever changed by that. We became an international campus, and we became, as the folks here know, a campus that was really deeply competitive in a fast-moving and remarkable sport. And he was ahead of his time because, of course, soccer grew in the United States after Jorge introduced it. So I honestly think that Jorge was the person responsible for American soccer, not just Knox soccer. Maybe that's a hyperbole, but I'd like to think that you brought it all to us, Senor Jorge. Also, every year I would get a beautiful, any of you who've had a handwritten note from Jorge know a very distinctive script, very beautiful script. And he would write me these wonderful, wonderful notes of appreciation. And I thought I will never be able to express to him how much those notes meant to me every year. So Jorge, I'm just delighted to see you here with the people who you introduced to Knox soccer, the people who revere you as I do, the people who love you as I do. You've been a very important part of my Knox journey. Really very important in so many ways. And so as I start, I just want you to know how much you have meant to me and how much I will remember forever as you walked out to the center of Prats Field and we dedicated that field in your honor so that it will always be Prats Field, the place where Knox soccer was born and where it has succeeded. And so thank you for everything you've done for Knox and for me too, personally.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias, muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Eres una persona formidable. Thank you.
Gracias.
Well,
I have to go to a board meeting. Imagine I have to go to a board of trustees meeting. But I am going to jump off. Really great to see everybody here, and I know you all appreciate Jorge as much as I do. So I just leave you with my thoughts and with my gratitude. So thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. You are wonderful.
Thank
And
you, Teresa. And also, I do want to note and offer a warm welcome and a good afternoon to our proud Director of Athletics, Daniela Earle, who is joining us today. Daniela, thanks for joining us. I'll allow you to say a few words and then we'll get started.
Thanks, crew. And next time, do not put me after Teresa. That's my one request. So I am happy to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. Jorge, I'm so excited to hear from you. You know, soccer is clearly hugely successful here at Knox, and I do think it's important to understand and celebrate all the work that in the past that got us here today. And I'm excited to learn about the house that you, Jorge, built, because this is certainly your house. So Jorge and Norm, Amy, thank you for sharing the journey. Thank you for putting this together and helping us do this. I think this is a great joy. Jorge, I've enjoyed, not only have I watched soccer games in the car with Jorge with the air conditioner running, I have watched American football games with Jorge in the end zone where he coaches up our football team. So I'm wondering if we need to maybe get Jorge involved with football a little bit. But Jorge, it's been a great pleasure. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversations. This will forever be the house that you built. So I'm really grateful that we're doing this today. So crew and Eric, everyone that's had a part in this, thank you for joining us and thank you for doing this. And back to you, crew.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniela. Well, I think enough from me here. So Amy and Norm, I'll turn it over to you two. Amy, I see our first question has already come in from Carl Nordgren. So I'll let you take it away here.
Okay, thanks, crew. Jorge, our first question for today is from Carl Nordgren, excuse me, class of 73. I'm not sure if he's on right now, but I know some people are planning to watch the recording later. But his question was if you could talk a little bit about the transition from the men's self-supporting club team to becoming a varsity team supported by the college.
Well, it's for me, it's very easy to explain because when we started, we had nothing. We had no budget. We had nothing to work on except that I had to use my experience and saying maybe I can try this to see if it works here at Knox. But I had a great help. Harley Nosher was the athletic director at the time. And although he made me wait for a year or two, finally he said, go ahead. And then it's when I started doing my things. And the story is that I went on until we got a good team. At the beginning, we were a club. We didn't know what was going to happen. We had no money of any kind. But I did a lot of things, like buy two soccer balls from Spain because we didn't have any in Galesburg at that particular time. And it was fun. And the transition was that one thing went to another. Instead of coaching a year or starting, I went on until 1982. And then all of a sudden, the transition was that the women probably were looking at the games for the men. They said, how come we don't have a club? So they came to talk to me at my office, and it came with Amy and Lara. And then they said, well, and I said, well, are you serious? And they said, yes, if you're serious, I'll start you. And we started nothing less than the auxiliary gym, what we call the women's gym at that particular time. You don't know, you know about that gym anyway, and that's how, and of course, Carl knows all the stories, because I have talked to Carl many times about different things. And Carl is a family that I know, his brother, his sister that came to Barcelona with me, with the program. So he knows, maybe he wants to know a little bit more. Well, I'll tell him a little bit more when I see him again. Okay, so that's fine.
Great, thanks.
Did I leave anything? You ask me anytime that you ask me a question. If I leave out anything, let me know, and then if I remember, I'll do it. I'll answer. Thank you. Any?
Next question. Daniela, I agree with you 100% about this being Knox College being the house that Jorge built. Some of the older guys I see on the call probably remember playing the Knox Bowl and Trevor Field and conference championship games at Lions Park, among other places. But I just want to give a big thanks to all those human contributions to make Prats Field now possible. It's a beautiful facility. It continues to have improvements and get better and better every year. My question is from a fellow Hall of Famer from my class of 1979, Steve Laudel, four-time MVP and one of the greatest soccer players in Knox history. What were some of the most exciting men's soccer games you coached, Jorge? And also, can you talk a little bit about the preseason and postseason meals and times at your house that really bound us, that helped as a team with team unity?
Well, when you talk about the Steve Laudel, I have a great appreciation because he was a great player, and I thought that Steve, you, and June Adachi are three people that if you would have been in 1973 at Knox College, you would have been in the team that I was coaching. You guys were so good that you came later, and therefore, but answering to Steve Laudel, I tried very hard to invite anybody that played soccer and with me to come to my house and do a little bit what I would do in Spain, inviting them, telling them about customs that we had in Spain, but at the same time, what I wanted to see is a relation between the players. The players were much happier after they had been at my house, I remember, and I think that they responded better on the field. They listened better to the instructions, and I was happy to see them improving time after time. And I can remember very well several players that are starting with nothing, meaning that they knew very little about soccer, to end up to playing rather well. And some of the people even changing positions because they thought that I thought that they could do better in another position. So the transition was well. And now about the sangria is a custom that we have in Spain. And of course, here it's not that I would give them sangria, but when they came at home, it's like they were in Spain for me. So they drank sangria to let them know that this is what we would do over there. And if we do it carefully, we can do it. The only thing is that you cannot abuse, and then Harley Nosher would have been unhappy, but he knew about that, and we did very well. And the sangria really was an extra that my wife said, why don't you give him sangria? So, okay, that's what we did, But mainly, Norm, is the relation that I got from the players at home. Those players, I think they appreciated me more, and when they were on the field, you could see that they were happy to play, they were happy to do things, they were happy to follow directions. And although our soccer at that time was not that good, but we kept learning, and was much better. I am stopped here because then I would talk too much. Go ahead. Anything I left?
Thank you, Jorge. I agree completely. Those were some great team building activities, definitely.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Jorge, next up for you is from Steve Zerwinski, who is the class of 1982. And he wanted you to talk a little bit about the evolution of women's soccer at Knox.
Well, the evolution of the women's soccer was that as soon as we started, I always envisioned that it took a long time to get the men to get to where we were at the time, but the women were faster. We were practicing for 2 years without knowing much about soccer and using the auxiliary gym and using the memorial gym. This is where I have all the pictures from those places, you know, not outside, but I have them from those places. And the thing is that when Harry and Osher agreed that they were going to be varsity, I noticed that many of the schools in the Midwest, they were having soccer for the women. So that's why we got faster. But when I said, after the 2 years, I said, fine, now Harley, look for a coach, a woman coach that can start the soccer. And then from that point on, it went like this for several years until recently, the last 4 or 5 years, that the women's soccer became something very, very important because they won the championship and we did 1 year after the other. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Anything else from there? No.
Yeah, maybe Jorge, could you talk a little bit? I know you showed me some things earlier. You had one of our early club schedules that you had printed out.
Yeah.
I recall we played some like other club teams from the Quad Cities, and then we played some colleges.
Okay, the thing went like this, and that's a very good question because it implements what you were asking. We had here with the people that came to play for soccer with the women, we had enough people, which is not true when I started with men, but with women, we had a lot of people showing up. Thanks to you and thanks to Lara, you know, all these people came, and I made teams of 7 or 8 players so we could play between ourselves, either it's in the women's gym or auxiliary gym or at the memorial gym, you know. But at the same time, I wrote a number of letters to different places, and see if we could find a competition to go and play with them. And I advise, we're probably gonna play with people that already play soccer, so we may not win any games, which was true, you know, we may not win any game, but we're gonna learn a lot, a little bit like I did with the men, but I have other explanations for the men on that, you know. But the thing is that we played Silvis, Grinnell, Rock Island, Moline, Coal Valley, Davenport, Rock Island, and Bettendorf. And we tied 1 game. We lost all the other. No, we tied 2 games and we lost all the others. So we didn't have. And then in 1987, because remember that we played in the fall of 1986, but then we played in the spring of 1987. And then in the fall of 1987, you started the varsity. But at that time, we had Knox against East Moline, Knox against Moline Stingers. I can't remember who they were. And then Knox Moline United, then Rock Island Gold, Bettendorf, and Coal Valley. We never played Coal Valley. Something happens. All this, but I keep this. I keep the name of all the women that signed for soccer, and then I keep the teams that I have, and I have a big folder with a lot of pictures from the gym and the memorial gym, and also I think from you people, you know, people. At that time, the photos were not that good like they are right now, you know. But we got them. So the evolution was great. The evolution was great, especially having a little bit of patience, you know. And I'll tell you, when Teresa Amat arrived as a president, she was very much interested in soccer. Things improved because we got better coaches at that particular time. Plus, the women already were better players too. And then we end up having what we had these last 4 years. It's been a glorious time for men and women soccer at Knox. And of course, with the field we have right now, I have nothing to do, but I think it's one of the best fields I've seen around here. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Jorge, the next question is from Harrison Sturm. He's talking about the Knox soccer over the years, but in your opinion, how has the soccer program influenced the total culture of the college here at Knox College, the whole culture for the college itself?
The original question is what again?
How do you think the soccer program has influenced the culture of Knox College itself?
Okay, well, as the reason I organized the trip to Spain, was not only to learn a little bit more how soccer is played, because in the United States at that time it was played, but very poorly, so to speak, at least according to my knowledge, But going to Spain would give them a different perspective what soccer is all about, knowing again that we were going to lose all the games. But we played, they were very nice treating everybody. They invite us to all over the place that we went. And I think that most of the players reacted to this in a way that it reflected when we came back. They were able to explain to Knox athletes the things that we did in Spain. And not only that, but how we were well treated in Spain, and also how much we improved. Because I remember that we had a player like Peters, who was a defense. We had the opponent to Peters was a very, very short guy who would dribble him every time, and Peters got very mad because he said, how can he do that so many times? But I said, well, he knows how to play soccer and you're learning right now. Well, the influence has been that I could talk about this and talking about the Barcelona program, which is something different. But I think that the exposition to international soccer helped here at Knox. Many more people and many foreigners came to play. Remember, at the beginning, we didn't have very many players, but then other foreigners would come and play. And of course, those foreigners made the team a little better. And I have long things to explain about that, about the foreigners. You want me to tell about the foreigners?
Sure, Fernando and Noslin and whoever else you'd like to talk about.
Okay. The foreigners were very good players in their own for 10 minutes. In other words, were players that they could dribble, they could shoot well, they could do them, but they could not last for the whole game, like the Americans who did all the rounds around the field, learning and getting the strength to be able to last the game. They only show us how good they were. But then I could not count. I wanted a team that would play together, that they all had the same possibility, passing the ball, knowing who passed the ball, and not to just use one person who's going to dribble by himself all the time. One thing is to have an exception. The other thing is to abuse of that thing. And the foreigners help quite a bit. But what I like is to see how much the regular Knox College athletes improve playing soccer, like you.
Okay, and next up for you, Jorge, is a question from Elizabeth Mosslander. She was known as Liz Sharkus, graduated in 1988, when we were playing. So she played a couple years with the club, and then as a senior, she played on the first women's varsity team. So she asked if you have any favorite moments in building the dream of having women's soccer at Knox.
Well, she was one of the dreams. She was a very good player herself. I told her, how come you never told me that you were playing soccer before? I had 2 or 3 players that I didn't know until I saw them play. And I said, by the movements, by the way they kick the ball, by the way they trap and all this, I said, boy, this girl has already played, because you don't know that right from the very beginning. And I think that this was quite an improvement between not only Elizabeth Sharkus, but there were 3 or 4 like this that were very good. I remember that they would be very happy to play and said, well, we played even a girl, a woman that came from Iceland and was a very, very, very good player, and she was not surprised when I told her, "You're a very good player." Other people would say, "Thank you very much." In her case, she said, "Well, it's a normal thing. That's the way I am."
Yeah.
And then she came to the Barcelona program. That was another story. Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, Liz was a goalie for us. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then you probably also remember Maria Muzzo, who was
Oh,
a goalie on the club team, and she was tinier than me, and they both were just fierce, awesome goalies.
a lot of energy. Maria Muzzo, a lot of energy. Very happy most of the time. No, she was not. She was not a sad person. She was very happy person. And I think that when I find that I had people like her on the team, that helps the team. The team feels better. If you have pessimistic persons, they don't help. But if you have people who are like Maria Musso, that was wonderful. Yeah, she was great. I remember her very well. Probably by looking at the pictures, immediately I could spot her, because some of these people impact you. It's like you being the first person, and you and Lara, I remember very well, because you came to my office and we had many talks, and Lara came to my office and talked also, and all this. Now, this is the normal thing. And with men, I have so many that I remember very well with this. Yep.
Well, I was lucky that Laura knew you and wanted to come talk with you, because I was just a scared little freshman, and I don't think I would have done it on my own.
You were a little quiet. I remember that you were anxious but quiet, and Lara talked much more at the beginning. But then I realized that you were the one that really influenced to all the other players on the team.
Well, thanks.
Jorge, the next question is from Gary Moses, class of 65. Back in the early 70s, Professor Mike Rosich, George's dad, George, who was on the call, coached the team while you were on sabbatical. Over the years, who filled in for you in some of your absences? And can you name and say us a little bit about all the assistant coaches you had over the years?
Well, I'll tell what I remember. What I have to tell that since I founded also the Barcelona program, I had the problem that sometime I could not be at Knox, but the team that played the previous year was already sort of well-trained, knew what to do, and I could trust Mr. Rosic, and then Vasily Fyodorov. These were two people who taught in the Russian department, who knew about soccer. And these people, when I was gone, they would replace me, and in a way that they would follow what we were doing up to that time. And they were probably talking to the captains of that particular thing, but I cannot remember some of the assistants. I would have to look at all these things. The only thing is that they did well. Mike Rosic especially did very, very well. And by the way, Mike Rosic, as I understand, is still alive. I think he's 103. That's what George Rosic told me.
I'll help you out a little bit, Jorge.
105.
What?
105.
105. Then I lost 2 years. George, I'm so happy to hear, because your father was instrumental in many times. He would come out of the field, and he was very happy. I think he liked soccer very much. He realized what we were doing, and also you were playing. That's another thing. If you have a son that is playing with the team, this is very important. But he and Vasily were very good in terms of Vasily would help the goalies. He was good for helping a goalie how to stop, but Mike knew the sport from Europe. I mean, he was a person that knew about soccer, and not only that, but he liked it. And he would come and we talk, and sometimes we would talk some strategies. And then when he thought that he said too much, he said, "Jorge, do anything you want." But that was wonderful. It was great.
Just helping you, Jorge. How about like Bucky Swise, Bird Loomis, Bob Sheehan?
Bucky Swise was a very good assistant. He was in charge of baseball He was in charge of many other things, but 1 or 2 years I can remember, he was my assistant. Of course, he didn't know much about soccer, but he listened to all the explanations that I gave at the gym when we were in the room talking to the players, and when he realized that some players was not listening perfectly, he would talk to them. So listen to the coach, because he's the one that knows what you have to do. He was very good helping. Bucky Weiss was a great person for me, and we played tennis and we played badminton together. So all I have to say that the help from him as an assistant was very good. For Loomis, probably has more because he was the coach by himself. It was a year that I was gone, and he was replaced. I was replaced by Loomis, and Loomis was a very, I think he came from Kansas or something. Yeah, Kansas, or yeah, probably. But anyway, he was very good coach. And he was a teacher too. He was teaching here at Knox College, remember? No, you may not remember.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy, you're next.
Yeah.
Okay, Jorge, for the next question, I'm actually going to turn it over to Jean Brandt from class of 72.
Okay. Hi, Jean.
Unmute. I have as much trouble with this as you are, Jorge.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay.
Can see. Yeah.
Jorge, my question is about professors who also serve as coaches. This was quite common in the years when I was at Knox, but it seems like it would be almost impossible these days for someone to accomplish what you were able to accomplish as both a professor and also as the coach of two varsity teams at one time. How did you do it?
Well, what do you mean two varsity teams? Tell me about the two varsity.
Well, the men's team and the women's team.
Well, the women's team came when the men already established. They were completely established, and I did not have to worry very much. And also, the women's team was done at a different time. When men were not playing is when we started the women's team. And then since at that time they were not varsity yet, the women's team could play also in another season. Instead of fall, they could play in the spring, or they can play in the winter. And that's what we did by using the auxiliary gym, which what we call the women's gym, or the memorial gym that they let us use. Now, this is it is possible. It's also possible if you like something very much, you're able to do twice as much as you would do normally speaking. And I remember that at that time I was watching most of the European games from Barcelona, playing against Madrid or playing at the European Cup and things like that. I was on top of everything by seeing all these games. But at the same time, when I was coaching here at Knox, I was very, very happy to be able to explain to each player, and many times, what he had to do to be successful in his area. And at the beginning, where they had they had one area like defense, middle, or forward, but then they were given the opportunity to go either forward or be in the middle or be in defense. In other words, a total team going up and down. That was one of the things that changed quite a bit. Jean, you
Yes.
remember? You remember me?
Jorge, I was going to say, I didn't play soccer, but you and I played a lot of tennis together,
That's
particularly
right.
in the summers with Bucky Weiss and
Yeah,
Tom Anderson and Doc Weiler and
that's
all
right.
kinds of people. And of course, I remember you, and I'm delighted to see you and looking so well.
And I remember it very well. You were replaced by somebody else because you left to go to another place.
That happens.
I know. But anyway, I haven't seen your face, but I remember you very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jorge, the next question is from George Rosich, class of 74. He would like you to talk a little bit about the early days of soccer at Knox and how you got the goals for the practice field.
Oh, that's a terrific story. Terrific story, because when I came to Knox, and I saw that I could start soccer and everything else, all we did is we didn't know where to play. So we used places like outside of the Gizmo, any place that had a little room, we played soccer there. But for the goalpost, we used our own clothes. In other words, we put a shirt, a sweater, whatever the thing, to make the goalpost, but we did not have anything to put on top. So we didn't know if a ball was too high or not. So then I said, why don't we build some wooden, some goalposts made of wood? Oh, and we did that. And then they were very weak, but they were there. But then the football players would come out from the practice. They would come over there, make a little bit of fun of the whole thing, and hang around the wood post and broke them. Then I got another idea. I said, okay, I have to look for a place that I can buy something that is very strong. And all of a sudden, one day walking close here in Galesburg, I saw a place that said scrap iron. And I said, what the heck is a scrap iron? And I went there and I saw that they had those cylindrical tubes, and they were very, very heavy, incredibly heavy. But I saw those and I said, boy, this, if we could have three, we could have the upper part and the side, we would have, with three, we could make a goal post. And then all I need is someone to make a hole to put them down on the field. Well, I went to the scrap iron place, and I saw those long cylindrical iron, and I said, can you give me this very cheap? And I explained that I was a professor at Knox College, that I wanted to start soccer. Well, they were talking about how much to charge me, and all of a sudden I hear a voice that said, he's a professor and wants to start. What did you say? Soccer? Okay, give it to them. So he gave me what I needed. Now, to take this, I needed help, because you needed 4 or 5 person to lift the goalpost. Well, I took them, and Stu Simpson, who was in the maintenance department, was a welder. I explained what he had to do. He did not want to do it because he said that he needed a special order, but maybe I looked very bad, and he said, poor guy doesn't know how to do it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So he made the goalpost. We set them up at the field, and Harley Nosher let us put it in the baseball field. So the goalposts were like, you make a big hole, and each one was there. And those goalposts, you could have 10 football players come, they would not break them. In other words, they were so heavy, they were incredibly heavy. And we had this for quite a while until we were able to buy regular goalposts. The goalpost, to me, is a story that I remember because everything had to coincide with the scrap iron. They had the welder to do this, and then the permission of Harry Nosher to put them in the baseball field. Finally, as you know, we played outside the Gizmo. We played at the baseball field. We played at the regular field that we have around, that where we have the round, and then we had the ball. So we played at 4 or 5 different places until finally we got the capacity to play on the field that we have right now, except that at that time was a very bad field. I mean, it was just a field and that's it. But the story that Mike, the George may know about, all these things, was a fantastic story. I mean, I wrote this in a way that it's much better explained than what I'm saying right now, my voice. I'm lacking part of the vocabulary that I would like to use, but I wrote this in my memories that I'm writing for my kids, and for everybody. The thing is that my memories are going to be in Spanish, in Catalan, and then in English. And the Spanish one lasts 3 hours and 45 minutes. The Catalan, which is my own language, is 1 hour and 45 minutes. And the English, it's only half an hour. But I would like to revise that because the people who speak English should know more about my story. Okay, next. No?
Okay. Next up for you, this is coming from Jim Mott, class of 74. And
Yeah.
he asks if you could share some highlights and memories of the 1973 Knox soccer trip to Spain.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that was a fantastic trip. Was something I didn't think that I could convince the team to go, but as soon as I talk and explain the possibilities that we had and what we could learn, and also that those years trips were very inexpensive. They were so inexpensive that right now I can tell you that we spent $273, including the round trip and the 18 days in the hotels in Spain. Can you imagine? 273. I still have one of the projects, you know, and all this, and we did that. But it's true that I knew a lot of people in Spain that they invite us. They invite us, and I did not have to pay some of the things. That's why it was cheaper. But we charged $273 to do this, you know. And we went to Spain, and I had to arrange 5 games. And I said, we're not going to win any one because all of these clubs, there are no clubs anymore. They're playing second, third, or fourth division. So they know how to play soccer. But at least you're going to suffer knowing that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, but at the same time learn what they're doing, you know. And sure enough, that's exactly how it went. You know, we lost games of like 14 goals, and we only made 2 of them. We lost another game like 7-0. Then, yeah, but we were happy. We were eating well, we were drinking well, and we were having fun. And everybody liked the trip so much that when we came back, I noticed that the team was much better. You know, they knew more. And said, Jorge, no, well, they call me coach. Yeah, coach, what about this that we saw? I said, well, you can do that. You can do it like this. You don't have to dribble on the side. You can go inside. These are little strategies that you learn when you play soccer and you know what to do. It's like I would not have a blackboard here to design all this, but I did that in the gym, and they followed. Many of them, they did that very well. I could probably think about 7 or 8 players that they improved so much that I was astonished how well they changed from not knowing very little. And then others that already were playing well, they improved, but there was not that difference like those guys that I was mentioning to you. Okay.
The next question, Jorge, it's kind of commonplace now for teams to have preseason practice. We were one of the first teams in 1977 that was allowed by the college to come a week early to train. It was great for us, and it was a nice thing that happened. The question is from Johan Urseis from the class of 84. He'd like to talk a little bit about the preseason trip that you made to Air Force Academy in the fall of 1980.
Okay, that trip was a consequence of every year doing mostly everything that we could. But one day I suggested to Knox, to Harley, I suggested, why don't we do something outside of this area, like going to another state, like for example, Colorado. And I said, and then the Grinnell coach, I can't remember his name right now, the Grinnell coach approached and said, Jorge, why don't we do this together? We take the Grinnell and the Knox team, and we take a big bus and we go to Colorado, and we'll make arrangements to play with the academy, the Air Force Academy, one day, and the other day at Colorado College. So we said, Grinnell will play one day at Colorado College, and then the next day we'll play there. And the first day we played at the academy, the Air Force Academy, and that was a terrific trip. We liked it. We were very tired, but we did it anyway. And I remember that was the first experience that I personally had with the players, that I said, listen, we have one problem here. This is a place that it's a mile high. The breathing is different from what you're used to in Galesburg, you know. And I said, maybe what we can do is play our best for as long as we can, and then they're going to get us in the second half. That's exactly what happens. The first half we were doing okay, but then before the second half I could see the players that were not in very good shape. In the second half they kill us. Too many. They're used to, if you're used to living in a place that it's a mile or 2 mile high, the breathing is different from the other ones. Okay.
Okay, Jorge, this is my own personal question.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We still have a house phone, so I can get a hold of my kids when I
Okay.
can't see their cell phones because of bad grades or bad behavior. So
Sure.
So here's my question for you, Jorge. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your playing days before you got to Knox.
Okay. I mean, you're talking about Spain or United States?
Either.
Okay. Well, I used to play soccer ever since I was 3 or 4 years old. And I was one of those players that would insist day after, instead of running 10 laps, I would run with the ball all the time or kick the ball against a wall, to be able to control the ball, everything that all the techniques that one needs in soccer. And I was pretty good by 11 or 12 years old. And I remember that in any place that we played, though it's not official, but I was showing well. And then when I went to high school, we were champions of Spain twice in a row, our school, and I was precisely one of the the scorers. So I scored 17 goals, in the same season twice, 2 years in a row. Then we went and we played the European people. We played some of the European people that wanted to play us, and we played and we won also in another field, 1-0. Well, I in Europe was a fantastic thing for me. Then I was playing with a team that we would go around Europe and play. We would go a Saturday, play the game, and come back again. So we would play to France, we would play in Germany, we would play in Belgium, different places, except the countries that we could not go because of the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain that didn't let us do. But sometimes they would give us permission just to go to that particular field, play the game, and leave without doing anything else. It was kind of dangerous because you need a special permission, a special passport and all this. And there was this. But then I remember that since I was a member of the Barcelona team and I was a member of anything that had to do with soccer, I remember that I used to go to all the games, the most important games that we had. I was one of the guys that attended the game. They gave instructions, talked to coaches and things like that. But when I came to United States, at the University of Illinois, they, like in Galesburg, they did not have any soccer balls. The University of Illinois, there was a group of foreigners that were playing soccer between themselves. So I joined them. And I had a lot of fun. And then I said, how come the University of Illinois doesn't have an official team? Well, they had it later on, but at that time, we all got together and we played between ourselves. And I have a great story about that. I had one day I was kicking the ball outside the Memorial Gym. In other words, not the Memorial Gym, where they play football, American football. And I was outside kicking the ball up and down and things like that. And a guy came and talked to me and said, could you show this to one of my players, how to kick like this, the ball like this? And it had to be the football field. They were practicing. You remember the 3 points, the 3 points in football with the oval? Well,
Yeah,
he
kicking
thought,
a field goal.
yeah, so he thought that I could kick. When I saw the ball, I said, no, the balls I know are round. They're not oval like this, I was said, but you could kick them. Well, I tried. I didn't like someone holding the ball, so I could kick through. I said, I'm gonna break his finger, you know. Well, anyway, I tried that, and I managed to do this for about 40, between the 40 and 46 yards. And the guy wanted me to play with the Illinois football field. That time, the coach was called Ray Elliott, was a famous guy, but I didn't know who was the coach or anything like that. And I said, I cannot play here. You know, I'm a graduate student, and graduate students don't play on the team. So the experience was like this. So when I came to Knox, I didn't see in the whole Galesburg, I didn't see any soccer balls. I saw basketballs, I saw baseballs, things like that. And I asked one of the kids, don't you have a soccer ball? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, a ball that is a little smaller than a basketball, you know. And I said, oh, you mean a volleyball? And of course, it was not a volleyball either, you know. And so it was fun. And then I said, oh, I have to start this. At least we have to start. Someone must be able to play soccer at Knox College. That's how I started. My thinking went like this. And I went, talked to Harley Nosher. Harley Nosher said, well, you have to do that on a volunteer basis. We don't have any money. We don't have any, like later on, the preseason meals. We never had anything like that. We had no budget to buy balls or socks or anything like that. So I remembered I bought 15 soccer balls from Spain. First two balls, then 15 from Spain. Brought them over here, and we played with those balls until we were able to continue buying balls. I'm sorry that I extended too much, but I get excited when we talk about these things, and then I go from one thing to another.
The next question, Jorge, is from the third, only the third, hard to believe with all the success of Knox men's soccer, third individual be elected into the Knox College Hall of Fame, Jonadachi. This question is kind of close to my heart too, because I was such a calm and really low-key player. Did you ever receive a yellow card or a red card? And what was your opinion of the officials? And did you ever get mad at anybody?
He was what they call in Spanish, un señor. He was a gentleman. You know, June was one of those players that anything that I told him, he did it exactly the way, you know. He is the model player that I said, June, you have to do this, you have to do that. I could trust him completely. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, all this, but I mean, but June was, you said low key, but it was the kind of
guy, that was me.
Well, but he was very calm, June. He would listen, and I thought he didn't listen, and then he performed on the field exactly what I told him to do.
Did you ever receive a yellow or a red card, Jorge?
No, me? No. Well, there was one time at Grinnell, we had a yellow card, but it was for one of the players, and that wasn't. This is an interesting story. Was one of the players, and I don't want to mention his name, who used to say bad words. No, bad words meaning curse words. And I said, don't say that because they'll expel you from the field. And I taught him 2 Spanish words that would be the equivalent of the American words that he was saying. Said, if you say that to yourself, you get your air out and you feel happier like this. It just happens to be that the guy that was refereeing the Grinnell team was a spoke Spanish. So he heard him and expelled him from the field. And then at halftime, I had to go and said, why did you do that? And then I explained to the referee that I had taught him these 2 words because otherwise he would say them in English. And I said, well, but you know that I understand them. And that's a story that when I think about, it makes me laugh quite a bit, you know, because explaining the guy, don't say, I don't want to say the word in English, but a bad word, you know. And then I said, you can say in Espanol, mierda, o coño, o carajo, no expressions that in Spanish it doesn't mean much, but you are happy to say it at the particular time. So I told him a couple words like this, and he mentioned that 2 or 3 times, and the referee cut them, and I didn't know the referee knew Spanish. That's another thing. June was, as I mentioned before, Lodell, you and June would have been on my 73 team if you were there at that particular time. And Lodell, I was very impressed the way he won every year, just incredible. But June, without saying anything, he was a very, very good player. And I have a lot of respect for him. And Norm, you may not remember, but you changed a little bit positions too. You may not remember because you're so good right now, but I remember the way you played, and I said, and if you play a little bit more to the left in front, you're going to be more successful. And I don't know whether you listen or not, but you did that, and then you became a very good player, not because of me, but some of the things, your natural thing of being. That's why you're so successful.
Awesome. Well, Amy, Norm, any final thoughts here before we wrap things up today?
What? Oh,
I'll just say that I really appreciate crew and everybody else who got this event together. And Jorge, it was great to hear your stories and catch up with you a little bit. And it was fun for me to get motivated to pull out some old pictures and everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Amy, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure seeing you and representing the woman over here that you so well deserved.
Final words for me. It's Jorge. It was great to see you, and thanks to everyone for being on the call. Hopefully, you know, Jorge, that you were a big part of all of our lives and how special you are to all of us. Thanks again for everything.
Norm, you're great.
And Jorge, I'll let you have the last say here. But again, reminder, thank you everyone for joining us here today. If you know of a teammate that couldn't make it, we will have the recording available in the coming days on the Knox Alumni Events webpage. But Jorge, I'll let you sign us off if there's any last words that you have.
Well, it was a pleasure to be able to be in a program like that. I know that this has been done already several times, but for me it was the first time. But I was happy to be able to talk to people like Norm and like Amy, because they represent the people that I coached, the people that I knew about at that particular time. And because I think that by talking to them, I talked to people that I had not seen for quite a while. And as I mentioned before, the people that I remembered, now they are in their 50s. And the men people that I coached at the time, now they are now in the 60s. And it's nice to be able to talk to these people and I still be around to be able to talk to all these. And thank you very much, crew. You've been organizing this very well. And I was very happy to hear Teresa somewhat on the program too. Teresa, and of course, the athletic director. But I think that Teresa did quite a bit for us, especially not only in many things academically speaking, but is the way he helped the athletic department. He did so well that part of the success is the good coaches that he was able to get. And of course, the players were good too. This is the thing, so congratulations. And I hope that maybe next time I'll be able to speak slower. I'll be able to be less excited. But today I was happy, excited, and nervous, all three at the same time. But I survived, and I'll be able, I hope that my kids, if they can hear this, they're gonna tell me or criticize whatever they want, but I know they like that I've been in this program. Thank you very much, crew, and thank you all of you for being so nice. And I've seen a list of people which I appreciate very, very much, but we had no more time. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you all. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me individually after this program. But otherwise, thank you all for logging on today. It was great to see everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Jorge.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jorge. It's Kim.
Oh, look at Kim. Ah, I haven't seen you for a long time.